and welcome to this episode of Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the city's marketing department. And today it is the early still in summer, and yet it's been incredibly hot so far, and we still have some of the hottest months to go. So with me, I have the director of the Hampton Health Department, Dr. William Berg. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a miserable summer so far. How did it get this hot in, June and July?
It's just the weather conditions that are doing it, and it may go on for a while.
Because we've had a number of heat advisories already issued by the Weather Service, and I know it comes and goes. We may be airing this when it's a lovely cool break from the oppressive heat, but heat can affect people and can cause health problems, and that's the serious part of what we want to talk about. Who is most at risk during the excessive heat?
The people who are most at risk are children under about age 5 and people over age 65. They have trouble, they don't adjust their body well to extreme heat, and in the case of kids, they're dependent on others to sort of look out for them. So these are the ones that we are most concerned about. Also concerned about people who are overweight. They don't lose heat as quickly, so they tend to accumulate it more. And people who are sick, particularly if they're taking medicines for depression or for sleeping or to help their blood pressure.
Because that can compromise the way their body processes, or?
Yes.
Okay. So what are some of the risks of heat? What diseases or conditions can you get?
Well, there's a whole range of them, starting with heat exhaustion, which there's a whole range of them, starting with heat cramps, which is just what the name says. It's in the arms or the legs or the belly cramping. What this represents is the body's physiology has gotten out of whack. The balance of fluids and minerals and salts in it are not proper, and so the muscles cramp.
Okay.
What this really is a warning that the body is starting to get overheated, and you need to get out of the heat, get into the coolness, drink fluids, and try to recover from this. Now, if you're not recovering in about an hour, then you should get medical help, because this may be, your body may be having more difficulty recovering from this.
Okay.
People may also be feeling a little lightheaded or dizzy. They may have some headaches, and their pulse may be going very rapidly.
And that's a little hard to tell unless you stop and check, but you can stop and check, right?
You can stop and check, but it can be hard to tell, and not everyone's pulse elevates like that. The next step is heat exhaustion, which is pretty much what the name says. People just feel tired. They may feel a little bit dizzy or lightheaded and have headaches. Pulse may be racing. Typically, though, they feel cool and clammy almost.
Oh, okay.
And then
a bad sign.
That's a bad sign. That's a sign that the heat exhaustion is getting even worse, that the body is getting more out of whack. And then finally, the most extreme form is called heat stroke. And temperatures can go up to 106. The skin can get bright red. But what is really characteristic about it, and what is strange in the environment of heat, is that people are not sweating. The skin is just totally dry because the sweat mechanism has shut down.
Oh, you either don't have enough moisture in your body to sweat, or your body has just stopped.
It's just plain stopped.
Wow.
And the danger is that this can be fatal, and even if you recover from it, if you're not treated in time, there can be long-lasting damage, including damage to the brain. So if you come across somebody in this situation, it's very important to try to cool them as quickly as possible. Sprinkle water on them with a hose, put them in the shower, put them in a tub, fan them, but particularly call 911 and get help right away, because this is truly a medical emergency.
Okay. All right. So these are very serious conditions, and you get warning signs, but some people may ignore them.
That's correct. People easily overestimate how much heat they can tolerate.
Gosh, I know I do. I work in the yard a lot, and the last few weekends it's been very uncomfortable, and you start to feel that. I mean, I would feel a little bit lightheaded or dizzy, and it takes a while to cool down, even when you go inside.
It does, and particularly if you haven't gotten used to the hot weather, you can get overheated very quickly.
Now, getting used to it is one of the things you say can also help people, right? If you don't suddenly decide, I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm going to climb my roof and clean out my gutters in the hottest day of the year. If you have to be outdoors, you work up to it.
Exactly. Start out with a few hours each day and then gradually increase it. Your body can adjust to the heat. Do it in the early morning hours before about 10 o'clock or after about 4 o'clock, and take rest breaks. Get in the shade, just sort of relax and cool down a little bit.
I noticed that a lot of people who work outdoors do adjust their hours in the summer and try to work earlier and earlier to not be in that heat of the day.
And that makes an awful lot of sense. The other thing that people need to do when they're working outside is to make sure they drink plenty of fluids. You may not realize how much fluid you've lost. You cannot go by feeling thirsty. By the time you're feeling thirsty, you're behind the curve in terms of rehydrating your body. So 2 to 4 glasses an hour, and if you're sweating, fruit juice or a sports drink, something to replace the minerals and the salts that you've lost in the sweat.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask too. How do people know that they need to replenish those minerals and salts? You just assume if you're out for a certain period of time that it's a good idea?
Yes, start out from the beginning. I'm going to be outside. I'm going to very rigorously make sure that I take plenty of fluids, 2 to 4 glasses an hour.
Okay. Now what about people who are maybe not outside but don't have air conditioning or don't have, adequate cooling in the super hot days? What can they do?
If people don't have air conditioning and it's really hot, they should try to get into a place where there is air conditioning. The libraries are open for this purpose.
Community centers on hot days.
The community centers are open. Go to a mall. Unfortunately, fans, even though they make you feel cool, don't do a good job of keeping your body temperature where it should be when you get into the upper 90s.
I noticed that. I rode my bike to work yesterday, and it was lovely in the morning. The breeze was cool, but the hot breeze on your face in the afternoon doesn't really help. It's like, being in a sauna, only the air moves more.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, also, if you're outdoors, there are a couple things to watch for in the summer in terms of insects. Mosquitoes are more than pests. They can cause health problems.
That's correct. Mostly they're pests, and particularly around here, the salt marsh mosquitoes, which are very aggressive biters, but they don't cause disease.
The salt marsh mosquitoes don't?
No, they don't.
Okay.
There are other species of mosquitoes that carry disease, and although these are rare here, they do occur: West Nile virus, Eastern equine encephalitis, St. Louis encephalitis, and La Crosse encephalitis. These are rare. Okay. But they can be serious, they can cause significant brain damage, and they're often fatal.
Now, how would you recognize that there's been a problem? I mean, we've all been bitten by mosquitoes repeatedly probably by now. How do you know? What symptoms do you watch for?
The symptoms affect your brain, your behavior. You may be acting confused. Things may not seem to make sense to you. People may comment on your behavior.
Okay.
You may lose consciousness or...
That's a big sign.
Anything like that, you need to go to the emergency room and get it checked out.
Okay. But preventive-wise, you can at least reduce the number of mosquito bites you get and improve your chances. And what are some of the best ways to do that?
Well, most mosquitoes are out around sunrise and sunset, so if you can stay indoors in a screened-in area during that time, that helps. You can also use DEET as an insect repellent. This is very effective. Use about 20 to 30%. Kids should have it applied by their parents, and for kids, don't put it on their hands or around their mouth or their eyes. You can also use permethrin, which is a repellent that actually kills the insects. This goes on the clothes, does not go on the skin.
Oh, really? Okay.
So using those will help to keep the mosquitoes off, and they're very effective.
And Dr. Berg, how can you tell? Like if you're in the store looking at a commercial insect repellent, what are you looking for on that label? It will say DEET or?
It will usually say DEET somewhere. Just about all of the commercial insect repellents have DEET in them, and you can look for the concentration on it.
Okay, and health concern-wise, as I know that some parents have been very concerned about using DEET-containing products on children, you think it's largely safe as long as we keep it out of the things that are going in the mouth?
That's the critical point. Little kids put their hands in their mouth, they can get DEET in it. The American Academy of Pediatrics has looked at this repeatedly, and as far as they're concerned, using DEET on little kids is very safe if you follow the instructions on it.
Okay.
And certainly the benefits of it in terms of preventing diseases that mosquitoes could cause outweigh the very small risk.
All right, and pyrethrins, is that derived from plants? What is?
It's derived from plants, from chrysanthemums.
I have chrysanthemums around my deck, but I don't think it really helps at all. I think you really have to crush that and make it a little more concentrated.
Yes, you have to get the active ingredient out.
And I have citronella planted too, and I'm not sure that's really helping, but it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, but I would rely on DEET.
Okay, and fans may also help too. That moving air maybe dissuades mosquitoes a little. No.
It's always worth a try. You know, the problem is if you're outdoors, you may not be able to carry a fan around with you.
That's true. That's true. Okay, and ticks are another issue. Now, I tend to think we're a little more urban. There's fewer tick problems here, but the truth is we have a lot of trees, and there are more.
We have a lot
parts.
of trees. We have a lot of ticks. They may be attacking humans more. Last fall, the acorn crop was small, which means there aren't as many mice, which the ticks normally feed on. They've got to feed on something.
Oh, wow, I didn't even think that an acorn crop would affect tick bites in humans.
The ecology of the tick life cycle is very complicated, very, very fun to watch in some respects. But if they can't, for ticks, it's literally a matter of life and death. There are 4 stages, and to go from one stage to the next, they have to have a blood meal. And if they can't have a small mammal or a deer, then they go to humans. The thing to keep in mind about ticks is that they're very aggressive feeders. They don't jump, they don't fly, but they love areas that are bushy, tall grass, a lot of leaf litter. And what they do, their back legs will stay on the tip of the branch, and they'll sort of be reaching out in front, and as you go by, they'll grab you.
Oh, wow, okay. So it's not like they just fall from the trees gently. They're much more aggressive than that.
They are much more aggressive than that. And so if you're walking through a field and the grass is brushing against you, you may very well be picking up some ticks.
And some of them are hard to spot, right? The deer ticks are pretty small. You might not notice that.
That's correct. People see pictures of fully fed ticks, which can be as big as a ½ an inch. The adult deer tick, and the deer tick is the one that causes Lyme disease. That's the one we're most concerned about. The adult is about the size of a sesame seed, but the nymphs are about the size of a poppy seed.
Oh, wow.
They're very small. And once they're fast, they can be mistaken for a little bit of dirt if you're not careful. So what you really need to do is when you've been outside, in addition to the prevention, take all your clothes off, very carefully check yourself for ticks. Take a shower, and definitely check your children. Ticks love to hide in the hair, behind the ears, behind the knees, any of the places that you might not readily see. So do a very thorough inspection.
Now, if you don't know that you've been bitten by a tick because it's small and you've missed it, what are some signs to watch for?
Within about 30 days, you can get an illness from a tick. It will manifest itself if the tick is carrying the germ that causes it. All of the different tick-borne illnesses start pretty much about the same. Chills and fever.
Okay.
Aches and pains, muscle aches and headaches, and in the case of Lyme disease, there may be joint aches. And in the case of Lyme disease and some of the other diseases, a rash. And the Lyme disease starts out as a red area that gradually gets bigger. It can get as big as 12 inches in diameter.
Oh.
So it's very dramatic.
So that is really something to look for, to say, this isn't the flu, this might be something else.
Yes. And this happens. So if you have sort of one of these symptoms, if you start feeling sick this way, particularly if you've got a rash, and if you've been outside in the tick area, go and see your doctor. All of the tick-borne illnesses are very readily treated with simple antibiotics.
But the trick is knowing getting it diagnosed. I mean, I know a number of people who've not had it diagnosed right away. It isn't necessarily the first thing that comes to mind when you start feeling a little achy or kind of flu-ish.
Exactly. This does sort of resemble the flu, and so until the rash appears, and sometimes it doesn't appear, people may just think they've got some sort of virus and it will go away. And it does go away on its own. So think about it, particularly if you're an outdoors person, if you've been in an area where there are ticks, and the ticks love bushy areas, grassy areas, trees that are low down on the ground, leaves.
All right, good idea. I've been cleaning out a lot of my backyard lately. I need to be more watchful of that.
check yourself when you get done.
Okay.
And take a shower. That helps to wash them off and may also help you find them.
Now, will they wash off? I thought, well, I guess it depends on how well they're attached at that point.
Yeah. Depending on the tick species, the tick takes anywhere from about 10 minutes to a couple of hours to firmly attach itself. You know, ticks sometimes like to sort of hunt around and find what they think is the best place for it.
Oh, okay. So you do have some opportunity to get rid of them before they're...
You do. Plus the act of just washing yourself, running your hand over your body. Oh, what's
You're
this
more
I feel
likely.
here?
Right. Okay. Well, that's really helpful. Are there any other tips you want to add, or things about what to watch for your health in the hot weather?
Sunburn.
Sunburn. Okay.
People think of this as sort of an annoyance. I remember when I was a kid, we'd get sunburned. We'd have contests to see who could pull the biggest patch of skin off.
Did you do that? I used to do that too. Oh.
Yes. So now I'm very conscientious about seeing the dermatologist because sunburn can lead to skin cancer, particularly if you're fair of skin. Mm-hmm. So use sunblock of at least SPF 15, broad spectrum that gets UVA and UVB, and apply it according to the directions and apply it frequently.
You know, it's so hard. I mean, times have changed, but I still want a little bit of suntan. You know, I still like that color. I know it's maybe not good, but at least trying to pace myself and do it gradually. But they do say any color is skin damage, right?
That's correct.
This is hard.
You can also use clothing to protect yourself, light, loose-fitting clothing. Clothing nowadays has sun protection factor in it, which is very useful. Wear sunglasses. Not only do they keep the bright light out that the sun's rays can work to promote cataracts down the road.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And my favorite tip is to wear a hat. You know, the ball caps are nice, but they leave your neck exposed. So
well, I have hair, that helps.
Yes, it does.
Men have a harder time.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
I think that pretty well covers it.
Well, we'll ask one quick question. Jellyfish stings. Is there anything you can do, or is it you just kind of have to suffer through?
What you can do is you can make up a paste of vinegar and baking soda and put that on. Okay. And then just sort of gently scrape it off. And then, of course, you can take medicines like Advil or Motrin for the pain. The best thing is just to avoid it, though.
It's hard around here.
It's very hard around.
They just
blossom.
Once they come in, yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Berg. There are so many health topics that we could talk about, and we'll have you back.
Thank you. I'd love to come back.
Good. And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin.